Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you today about something that deeply affects all of us at one point or another: betrayal. When someone cheats on you, lies to you, or deeply hurts you, it can feel like a part of you has been shattered. But let me offer you not just comfort, but clarity. Because understanding why someone behaves this way gives you the power to move forward stronger and wiser. There are only 12 core reasons why people cheat or hurt others, and none of them are your fault. They're rooted in their mindset, their insecurities, and their unresolved issues, not your value. When someone cheats on you or deeply hurts you, it's easy to question everything. You might look in the mirror and wonder what you did wrong. You might replay every word, every moment, every decision, trying to figure out what led to the betrayal. But I want you to understand something foundational. One of the key reasons people hurt others, especially those who love them, is a lack of character. Character is not about charm. It's not about how well someone can talk or present themselves. Character is about integrity, doing what's right when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, and especially when no one is watching. A person of character doesn't cheat, not because they don't feel tempted, but because they've developed the strength to overcome that temptation. They honor commitments, not because it's always easy, but because it's the right thing to do. A lack of character means a person doesn't have a strong internal compass. They may know right from wrong intellectually, but emotionally and behaviorally, they don't live by it. They make decisions based on what feels good in the moment, what's convenient, or what serves their ego. And when someone has not built character, they are capable of actions that can deeply wound others without fully grasping or caring about the consequences. Now here's the painful truth. People with poor character often appear very functional on the outside. They can be charming, confident, successful, even loving at times. But when stress, temptation, or dissatisfaction enters the picture, their true nature reveals itself. And often they choose betrayal over bravery, escape over accountability, not because you weren't good enough, but because they weren't strong enough. Character is developed, not inherited. It's built through discipline, self-awareness, humility, and values. And some people, unfortunately, never take the time to build it. They drift through relationships as consumers instead of contributors. They chase feelings instead of commitment. They treat people like stepping stones, not sacred connections. So when someone cheats or lies, it reflects their internal structure. Think of a house built without a foundation. It may stand for a while. It may look nice from the outside, but when the pressure comes, it cracks. That's how people without character function. They appear stable until life demands something real from them. Loyalty, consistency, honesty, and that's where they collapse. You see, loyalty isn't about perfection, it's about principle. Someone with character says, even when I'm tempted, I'll protect what I've built. Someone with character communicates instead of sneaks. They fight for the relationship instead of running to someone else. But those who lack it, they cut corners. They choose comfort over courage. They act selfishly and then expect understanding. But you don't need to carry their shortcomings as your burden. Their lack of character is not your responsibility. You can't teach someone integrity if they're not willing to learn. You can't force someone to value you if they don't even value themselves. What you can do is recognize that their betrayal says more about their weakness than your worth. So instead of internalizing their actions, study them. See them clearly, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. The moment you understand that it was their character, not your failure, that led to the pain, you set yourself free. You release yourself from guilt, shame, and confusion. And most importantly, you begin to demand something greater, not just in others, but in yourself. You decide to build your own character so solid that no betrayal can shake your identity. You commit to living with integrity even when others don't. You heal not because they deserve peace, but because you do. You didn't deserve to be hurt, but you do deserve to grow stronger from it. And when you learn to recognize poor character in others, you protect yourself from repeating the same lesson. Because now you know better, and when you know better, you live better. You said, expand to up to 600 words. Don't add any headings. ChatGPT said, emotional immaturity is one of the most underestimated yet common reasons why people cheat or hurt others. It doesn't always look obvious. In fact, some emotionally immature individuals may seem charming, funny, or even responsible on the surface, but deep down they lack the emotional tools to handle real connection, accountability, or the depth that love requires. When someone is emotionally immature, they react rather than reflect. They escape rather than engage. They break things rather than build them. You see, emotional maturity is not about age. It's not about how long someone has been in relationships or how confident they appear. It's about the ability to regulate emotions, communicate honestly, take responsibility for one's actions, and make decisions based on long-term values rather than short-term gratification. An emotionally mature person doesn't run from problems, they face them. They don't betray, they have conversations. They don't act out, they reach out. When someone cheats, lies, or deeply wounds another person due to emotional immaturity, they're not thinking about the consequences. They're not thinking about the pain they're causing. They're thinking about how to avoid discomfort, how to feel better quickly, or how to get their emotional needs met without doing the real work of growth. They want the benefits of connection without the responsibility that comes with it. And in that state, they become reckless with people's hearts. A person who is emotionally immature lacks the ability to process pain in a healthy way. If they're hurt, they might lash out. If they feel insecure, they might seek attention elsewhere. If they feel bored, they might create drama or chase excitement in destructive ways. And instead of communicating their fears, their needs, or their dissatisfaction, they act impulsively because that's easier than being vulnerable. Now, this doesn't mean they're inherently evil or unworthy of love. It simply means they haven't grown. They haven't taken the time or made the effort to become someone capable of healthy love. And the danger is, if you're mature and they're not, you will constantly find yourself feeling like you're the problem. You'll take on their emotional burdens. You'll justify their behavior. You'll try to fix them, change them, heal them. But the truth is, emotional growth is a personal decision. No one can do it for someone else. If someone has hurt you because of their emotional immaturity, it's not your job to make excuses for them. It's your job to protect your peace. It's your responsibility to recognize the difference between someone who's trying to grow and someone who's avoiding it. You deserve a relationship where communication is open, where honesty is the foundation, and where maturity isn't optional, it's expected. Don't let someone's inability to grow make you feel like you're too much. You're not too much. You're just too evolved for someone who refuses to meet you at your level. Emotional immaturity often causes chaos because it resists structure. It resists commitment. It resists truth. And if you try to build something meaningful with someone who avoids those things, the foundation will always crumble. The best thing you can do is observe, not absorb. If someone shows you they're emotionally immature through their actions, believe them. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to shrink yourself to keep them. You need to release them and make space for someone who has done the emotional work. Let their immaturity be their lesson, not your prison. Because maturity is not about never making mistakes. It's about owning them, learning from them, and doing better. And you deserve someone who understands that love is not a game, but a commitment to grow together. So if someone hurts you because they were emotionally immature, forgive them. But never forget to choose yourself next time. Choose peace, choose emotional safety, choose maturity. Because love without maturity is just a cycle of pain in disguise. You said, expand 3 up to 600 words. Don't add any headings. ChatGPT said, some people cheat or hurt others simply because they are addicted to attention. It's not about love, and it's not about you not being enough. It's about their endless craving to feel validated, noticed, and admired. This kind of addiction is subtle but powerful. It drives people to constantly seek external approval, even when they are already in a committed relationship. They want to be desired by many, even when they are loved by one. An attention addict is someone who feels empty without applause. They need compliments, flirtation, or emotional validation from others just to feel significant. When they're not receiving attention, they feel insecure, invisible, or even worthless. And in this void, they start searching not for deeper connection, but for someone who will stroke their ego. It's not that they don't care about the person they hurt, it's that their need to be noticed outweighs their capacity to stay loyal. This kind of person often confuses attention with affection. They equate someone being attracted to them with being worthy. So they collect attention like trophies. Every like on social media, every flirtatious glance, every message, they feed off it. And unfortunately, when that need becomes stronger than their sense of loyalty or ethics, they act in ways that are destructive. They flirt when they shouldn't. They cross boundaries they know are wrong. They entertain interest from others even when they are in a relationship. All for one thing, to feel wanted. But here's what you must understand. This has nothing to do with your value. You could be loving, supportive, beautiful, consistent, and still not be enough for someone who's addicted to attention. Why? Because no amount of external love can fill the internal emptiness of someone who hasn't found peace within themselves. They're looking for something on the outside that only healing on the inside can provide. People addicted to attention often have unhealed wounds. Maybe they grew up in environments where they only received praise when they performed. Maybe they were overlooked, ignored, or emotionally neglected. And now as adults, they chase attention to feel alive, relevant, or worthy. But this chase is never ending. The moment one person's attention fades or becomes familiar, they seek it elsewhere. Not because that person did something wrong, but because their validation was never meant to last. It was just a hit, like a drug. And now they need another. The tragic part is that people who love them get caught in the cycle. You try to give them more love, more affirmation, more time, thinking it will satisfy them. But it never does. Because no matter how much attention you give, someone addicted to it will always believe there's something better just around the corner. It's not about the love you provide, it's about the void they haven't addressed. So if someone has hurt you because of their addiction to attention, don't turn inward with blame. Don't start thinking you weren't enough. Understand that their behavior is a reflection of their emotional hunger, not your inadequacy. They are chasing something only they can resolve within themselves, and until they do, they will continue to seek attention even if it destroys the very relationship that once gave them what they needed. You deserve more than being someone's temporary fix for insecurity. You deserve someone who values depth over surface, loyalty over novelty, and connection over convenience. Walk away from those who need the world to see them in order to feel seen. Be with someone who sees you and only you, because that kind of love isn't distracted by the crowd, it's rooted in commitment.
Let their need for attention be their journey to face, not your burden to carry. Because real love doesn't need an audience. It only needs two people who are enough for each other without the world watching. You said? So expand for up to 600 words, in any headings. ChatGPT said, fear of intimacy is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful reasons why someone might cheat or hurt you. On the surface, it may not make sense. You showed them love. You were consistent. You offered security, comfort, and honesty. And still, they pulled away. They created distance, not closeness. They pushed you out, not because they didn't feel something, but because they felt too much, and that terrified them. You see, intimacy is not just about physical closeness. True intimacy is emotional nakedness. It's vulnerability. It's letting someone see the parts of you that aren't polished or perfect. And for some people, that is deeply frightening, not because you did anything wrong, but because they've spent their entire life building walls to protect themselves. And now love is asking them to tear those walls down. And they don't know how. When someone fears intimacy, the closer you get, the more they panic. They might begin to sabotage the relationship just when things are going well. They start picking fights, withdrawing, or suddenly becoming unavailable. They might even cheat, not because they stopped caring, but because they're running from the vulnerability you brought out in them. It's not that your love was too much. It's that your love was too real, and they weren't ready for that kind of truth. For someone who fears intimacy, real connection feels like exposure. They fear being truly known because deep down they believe that if someone sees the real them, they won't be loved. So instead of leaning in, they run. Instead of opening up, they shut down. And instead of staying faithful, they might seek shallow interactions where there's no real risk of emotional depth. Often, this fear is rooted in past trauma. Maybe they were hurt, rejected, or abandoned in their childhood. Maybe their previous experiences taught them that getting close means getting hurt. So now they equate closeness with danger. To them, emotional safety feels unsafe because it's unfamiliar, and they sabotage love not out of cruelty, but out of fear. A fear that if they fully open up, they'll be rejected. A fear that if they truly invest, they'll lose control. A fear that love, in the end, will only become another source of pain. And here's where many people get stuck. You try harder to love them, thinking your patience will heal them. You become gentler, more understanding, more available. But no matter how much love you give, someone who fears intimacy will continue to push you away until they decide to confront that fear within themselves. It's not a lack of love that keeps them from you. It's their inability to sit in the discomfort of being seen, known, and emotionally exposed. So if someone hurt you because they feared intimacy, don't make it about your worth. You didn't cause their fear, you simply triggered it by being real. And while that says a lot about the depth of the love you offered, it also tells you that not everyone is ready to receive it. Some people have to go on their own journey before they can stand in the light of love without hiding. You can't force someone to be emotionally available. You can't fix fear that isn't yours, but you can choose to protect your peace. You can choose not to shrink your heart just because someone else wasn't ready to receive it. And most of all, you can choose to be with someone who sees intimacy as a safe place, not a threat. Let their fear be their challenge to face, not your burden to carry. You deserve love that invites you in, not love that runs away when it gets too close. Because the right person will not fear your presence. They will find peace in it. We said, expand 5 up to 600 words, don't add any headings. ChatGPT said, some people cheat or hurt others because they feel entitled. Entitlement is a dangerous mindset. It convinces a person that they deserve more, even when they've already been given enough. It makes them believe that they have the right to step outside of their commitments, to lie, to betray, to hurt, without facing the consequences. An entitled person doesn't see loyalty as a responsibility. They see it as a limitation. And when someone feels entitled, they don't value what they have, they take it for granted. This mindset is rooted in self-centeredness. They believe their needs, their desires, their impulses should always come first. If they're bored, they believe they have the right to seek excitement elsewhere. If they're unhappy, they think they're justified in stepping out instead of working through it. If someone else gives them attention, they feel no guilt in pursuing it. Why? Because in their world, their feelings matter more than anyone else's pain. Entitlement blinds people to the truth. It makes them think that they are owed something from life, from others, even from relationships. Instead of appreciating love, they exploit it. Instead of nurturing loyalty, they manipulate it. And when you love someone like this, it can be devastating. Because no matter how much you give, how kind you are, how patient and present you remain, they still believe they deserve more. They might say things like, I wasn't happy, or I needed something different, as if that justifies betrayal. But unhappiness is not a license to hurt people. Dissatisfaction is not permission to abandon responsibility. Relationships are not about perfection, they are about commitment. And when someone breaks that commitment out of entitlement, they're revealing their inability to value anything beyond themselves. You must understand this clearly. When someone cheats or lies because of entitlement, it's not about you not doing enough. It's about them believing they deserved more than what they were willing to earn. They want love, but they don't want to give it. They want trust, but they don't want to honor it. They want the benefits of loyalty without the burden of discipline. And in that imbalance, they destroy what could have been beautiful. Entitlement shows up in little ways first. Disrespect in arguments, dismissing your feelings, taking without giving back, always making the relationship about them. Over time, these patterns reveal a core truth. They are in it for what they can get, not what they can build. And if that entitlement goes unchecked, it turns into betrayal. Because they believe they are allowed to cross lines others must respect. You can't teach humility to someone who clings to entitlement. You can't make someone value your heart when they think they are owed it by default. What you can do is set boundaries. Walk away from people who think loyalty is optional. Refuse to lower your standards just to keep someone who refuses to rise to meet them. You are not a reward for someone who doesn't want to do the work. You are not a prize for someone who disrespects the game. Let their entitlement teach you something. Value cannot be forced. Appreciation must be earned. And anyone who treats love like an entitlement will never understand its true worth. The right person will never feel entitled to your love. They will feel grateful for it. They will protect it, not play with it. They will choose it every day, not when it's convenient. So, if someone hurt you because they felt entitled, don't take the blame. Let it be a mirror of their mindset, not your mistake. You deserve someone who doesn't just receive your love, but honors it. Someone who doesn't feel owed your loyalty, but desires to earn it through their own. Because that's where real relationships begin, not in entitlement, but in mutual respect. You said, expand up to 600 words. Don't add any headings. ChatGPT said. Insecurity is one of the most subtle yet destructive reasons why people cheat or hurt others. It doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it hides behind confidence, behind charm, behind success. But deep down, an insecure person is battling fears they don't speak about. They don't feel good enough, strong enough, attractive enough, or worthy enough. And instead of facing those internal struggles head on, they project them out. They hurt people as a way to protect themselves from being hurt first. When someone is deeply insecure, they often crave external validation to feel okay. They need compliments, attention, and reassurance constantly because they don't believe in their own worth. They seek approval from others not out of desire, but out of need. And when that need isn't constantly being met, they begin to feel anxious, unloved, or forgotten. That's when they start to look elsewhere, not necessarily because they're unhappy with you, but because they're unhappy with themselves. Insecure people are often afraid of being abandoned or rejected. Ironically, that fear can cause them to self-sabotage relationships before they get too close. They might cheat, lie, or act distant, not because they don't care, but because they're terrified of being truly seen and then rejected. So instead of allowing themselves to be vulnerable, they act in ways that create distance. It's a form of emotional protection, even though it causes more damage in the long run. The problem is that insecurity, if left unchecked, leads to selfish behavior. Instead of building trust, they test it. Instead of nurturing love, they challenge it. They might cheat to prove to themselves that they still have value. They might hurt you just to confirm their own belief that they're not worthy of real connection. And even though their actions cause pain, it's not always coming from cruelty, it's coming from a wounded place. But no matter how deep someone's insecurity runs, it doesn't excuse betrayal. Everyone has wounds, but not everyone chooses to act from them. Some people use pain as an excuse to damage others. And when you're the one on the receiving end, it's easy to start doubting your own worth. You wonder what you could have done differently. You question whether you were enough. But here's the truth. Someone else's insecurity is not your responsibility to heal, especially when it turns toxic. Insecurity can also manifest as control, jealousy, or manipulation. They might try to control where you go, who you talk to, or how you dress, all because they fear losing you. They might become possessive, accusing, or emotionally distant. But beneath it all, the root is the same. They don't feel secure in who they are, so they try to control everything around them to feel safe. You can support someone who's insecure, but you cannot save them. You cannot give them enough love to fix what they won't face within themselves. Healing insecurity is an inside job, and until they choose to grow, they'll continue to create instability. And you'll find yourself constantly pouring into someone who can't hold what you give. If you've been hurt by someone acting out of insecurity, don't carry that weight. Their pain is not your fault. You didn't fail them. They failed to confront their own brokenness. And while compassion is noble, it should never come at the cost of your peace. You deserve a partner who is secure in themselves, who can receive love without needing to constantly prove or protect anything. Someone who doesn't use insecurity as a weapon, but instead builds a relationship on trust, openness, and emotional responsibility. Because the strongest relationships are built not on perfection, but on two people who are strong enough to face their flaws together. Expand 7 up to 600 words. Donned Eddie headings. ChatGPT said. Some people cheat or hurt others simply because they want power. For them, it's not about love, connection, or even dissatisfaction. It's about control. Power seekers thrive on the feeling of being in charge, of having the upper hand, of knowing they can affect your emotions, especially your pain. They measure their worth by their ability to dominate situations and people, and often the ones they hurt the most are those who love them the deepest. You see, the desire for power in relationships often stems from a deep internal void. These individuals may feel small, weak, or insignificant on the inside, so they try to reverse that by controlling others on the outside. If they can manipulate your feelings, if they can make you doubt yourself, if they can cause emotional chaos and still keep you around, they feel powerful. It's twisted, but to them, it's a form of validation. A person who cheats or lies for the sake of control isn't necessarily driven by lust or temptation. Many times they want to prove to themselves that they still have influence, that they are wanted, that they are irreplaceable. They like knowing they can hurt you and you'll still stay. That's power. And for someone who craves it, loyalty isn't a priority. It's just another tool they can exploit. Power-driven behavior often starts subtly. It shows up in small manipulations, a lie here, a mind game there, pushing your boundaries just to see how far they can go, testing your patience, then blaming you for overreacting. They want you emotionally off balance because that's when they feel in control. The more you try to please them, the more they test you. And the more you give, the more they take. It becomes a cycle, one where you're always trying to gain their approval and they're always keeping it just out of reach. They may even cheat to prove something, not necessarily to you, but to themselves, to prove they still have it, to show they can get away with it. It's not always about the other person. It's about the rush of control, the thrill of deception, the satisfaction of holding secrets. And when they're caught, they rarely show real remorse, because in their mind, they were just exercising their right to power. But here's the truth. Real power doesn't come from control. It comes from self-mastery. It comes from honesty, from integrity, from the ability to treat others with respect, even when you have the option not to. People who seek power by hurting others are not strong. They are weak. Because it takes no strength to deceive. It takes strength to be loyal when no one is watching. It takes strength to be faithful in moments of temptation. It takes strength to choose empathy over ego. If someone hurt you just to feel powerful, understand this. It was never about you. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because they didn't feel like enough. And they tried to compensate by diminishing your light. They used your love as leverage to boost their ego. But their need to feel superior doesn't define your value. It exposes their insecurity. You deserve someone who empowers you, not someone who competes with you. Someone who sees love as a partnership, not a power struggle. Someone who doesn't need to cheat, lie, or manipulate just to feel important. Because in healthy love, both people rise. Both people feel seen, both people feel safe. Walk away from anyone who thinks breaking you makes them stronger. That is not love. That is control. And control disguised as love is just emotional warfare. Set yourself free from it. Reclaim your peace. Reclaim your voice. And above all, remember this: real love doesn't need power games. It thrives in truth, respect, and equality. You said, expand 8 up to 600 words. .ad any headings? ChatGPT said, some people cheat or hurt others because they're chasing temporary excitement. They become bored with stability, restless in routine, and hungry for newness. What they don't understand is that true relationships are not built on constant stimulation. They're built on depth, trust, and emotional connection. But when someone confuses love with excitement, they start mistaking peace for boredom. They look at consistency and think something is missing. So instead of appreciating what they have, they start chasing the next thrill. This kind of person isn't always malicious. In fact, many don't even realize how destructive their mindset is. They're addicted to the high of newness, the rush of a fresh connection, the mystery of someone they don't know yet, the adrenaline of doing something forbidden. They chase that feeling again and again, hoping it will last, but it never does. And because the truth is, excitement fades. And when it does, they find themselves back at square one, needing another fix. People who chase excitement often struggle with emotional immaturity. They haven't learned how to stay present in the quiet seasons of love. They don't know how to nurture a bond when it's no longer shiny and new. They think the spark is the whole fire, but in reality, it's only the beginning. Real love requires work, patience, and intention, but someone hooked on excitement sees effort as a burden. They want love to feel like a movie scene every day. And when it doesn't, they start seeking that feeling elsewhere. What they fail to understand is that excitement is easy. Anyone can feel sparks with a stranger, but building something that lasts requires emotional strength. It means learning to find beauty in the ordinary. It means growing through challenges instead of running from them. It means choosing your partner even when things feel slow or repetitive. But someone who chases excitement will skip all that. The moment love demands maturity, they exit, not because the love is gone, but because the thrill is. They'll say things like, I just needed something different, or I didn't feel the same anymore. But what they really mean is, I don't know how to sustain love without constant stimulation. They're not looking for connection. They're looking for distraction. They're not ready for roots. They want fireworks. And the worst part is, they often hurt people who are ready to offer something real. If you've been on the receiving end of someone's chase for excitement, understand this. You were not boring. You were consistent. You were safe. You were real. And that scared them. Because real love isn't loud. It doesn't always come with butterflies and constant highs. Sometimes it's quiet, it's simple, it's steady. And for someone who hasn't matured emotionally, that feels like a problem, even though it's actually the greatest gift. Don't let someone's inability to appreciate depth make you question your worth. You weren't too dull, they were too shallow. You weren't the problem, they were chasing a fantasy, and fantasies always fade. What lasts is someone who stays when the excitement settles, who leans in when things slow down, who finds joy not just in the highs, but in the everyday moments. Let them chase their temporary highs, let them run from real love, because one day they'll realize that excitement without connection is empty, that thrill without loyalty is fleeting, that chasing novelty only leads to loneliness in the end. You deserve someone who finds their excitement in you, not in newness. Someone who sees adventure in building a life together, in growing through seasons, in sharing the ordinary, because the right person won't need constant sparks to stay. They'll choose the fire that never goes out, steady, quiet, and true. You said expand 9 up to 600 words, don't add any headings. ChatGPT said. Sometimes people cheat or hurt others because they're emotionally unavailable. This doesn't always mean they're cold or distant from the start. In fact, many emotionally unavailable individuals appear charming, attentive, and even loving in the beginning, but the moment things start to get deep, the moment real emotional intimacy is required, they begin to shut down. It's not because you did something wrong, it's because emotional closeness triggers a fear they haven't dealt with. They don't know how to let someone all the way in, and when they feel that happening, they pull away. Sometimes by cheating, sometimes by hurting, and often without clear explanation. Emotional unavailability is a form of self-protection. These individuals might have been through trauma, heartbreak, or experiences that taught them to never rely too much on another person. As a result, they build walls, not bridges. They engage just enough to keep you around, but not enough to fully connect. They say the right things, but avoid vulnerable conversations. They show affection, but avoid commitment. And when the emotional temperature rises, they often create chaos intentionally or subconsciously to avoid true connection. When someone is emotionally unavailable, they don't know how to sit with emotional discomfort. They avoid vulnerability because it makes them feel weak or exposed. They'd rather ghost you than explain themselves. They'd rather cheat than face the anxiety of intimacy. They'd rather sabotage something good than risk being truly known. And if you've ever tried to love someone like this, you know how exhausting it can be because you're constantly giving, constantly trying to connect, constantly hoping they'll open up, but they never fully do. The pain is not just in what they did, but in what they withheld. The love they refused to give, the effort they didn't offer, the consistency they never delivered. You find yourself wondering why they seem so emotionally present at first, only to become cold and detached later. But that's how emotional unavailability works. It thrives in the shallow end of relationships, but drowns when asked to swim in deeper waters. You may try to fix them. You may think if you're patient enough, kind enough, loyal enough, they'll eventually let their guard down. But emotional unavailability is not a wall you can tear down with love alone. It's something they must choose to face within themselves. And unless they're willing to do that internal work, they will continue to hurt people who want something real with them. Their behavior often leaves a trail of confusion and self-doubt. You start to question whether you are too intense, too needy, or too emotional. But the truth is, emotional depth isn't the problem. Their fear of it is. And no matter how perfect you try to be, you can't force someone to be ready for the kind of love you're offering. If someone hurt you because they were emotionally unavailable, take it as a sign, not of your failure, but of their emotional limitation. You deserve someone who doesn't just show up when it's easy, but stays when it's hard. Someone who doesn't disappear when things get real, but leans in. Someone who values emotional intimacy instead of running from it. Real love is not built with people who can't express how they feel. It's built with people who are emotionally present, who can communicate, who can face discomfort without fleeing. Don't settle for someone who only gives you half their heart. Wait for someone who can meet you fully, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because love without emotional availability is just a performance. It may look good on the surface, but it will never nourish your soul. Some people cheat or hurt others because they never actually respected the relationship in the first place. They were physically present but emotionally detached. They said the right words, made the right promises, but deep down they were never truly committed. Respect is the foundation of any relationship. Without it, love becomes hollow and trust turns fragile. And when someone lacks that foundational respect, they feel entitled to do whatever they want, regardless of how it affects you. This lack of respect doesn't always show up as blatant mistreatment at first. It might appear subtle in how they interrupt your boundaries, how they dismiss your concerns, or how they act as if their time, needs, and desires are more important than yours. Over time, their actions reveal that your emotional well-being was never a priority. They might be charming in public and cold in private. They might claim loyalty but behave with selfish disregard. That is not love. That is convenience wrapped in manipulation. A person who lacks respect for you will never truly feel guilty for hurting you. They'll justify their actions, shift blame, or minimize your feelings. If they cheat, they may say things like, it didn't mean anything, or you were being too sensitive. They downplay betrayal because to them, your pain is just a side effect of their decisions, not a consequence they feel responsible for. That's how you know respect was never there. It's in their lack of remorse. People who don't respect relationships often see others as replaceable. They treat you well when it benefits them, when you're making their life easier, when you're fitting into their plan. But the moment they feel uncomfortable, challenged, or bored, they don't talk it out, they lash out, walk out, or act out. And they don't consider how their choices affect the person they once claimed to care about. That's because respect requires maturity, it requires discipline, and more than anything, it requires empathy, something many people choose not to develop. If you've been cheated on or mistreated by someone who lacked respect for the relationship, understand this. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their values. You can be loving, supportive, patient, and loyal, but if someone doesn't respect you, none of that will matter to them. You'll always be an option, not a priority. You'll always be tolerated, not cherished. And eventually, you'll realize that no amount of love can make up for a lack of respect. Real respect shows up in how someone speaks to you when they're angry. It shows up in the decisions they make when you're not around. It shows up in how they treat your emotions. Do they handle them with care or do they weaponize them against you? You can't build a future with someone who sees you as a placeholder. You can't grow with someone who views loyalty as conditional. And you definitely can't heal in a space where respect is absent. Don't waste your energy trying to earn respect from someone who never intended to give it. That's not your job. Your job is to honor yourself enough to walk away from those who treat your presence like an afterthought. Because when someone truly respects you, they will never allow their impulses, pride, or temptations to risk losing you. They will be honest, they will be faithful, they will be consistent. Respect is not a favor. It's a basic requirement. It is the soil in which trust grows. Without it, nothing meaningful can survive. So if someone disrespected your love, let that be their lesson, not your burden. The right person won't just respect the relationship. They'll protect it, nurture it, and fight for it every single day. Some people cheat or hurt others because they're trying to escape from themselves. They carry inner pain, unresolved trauma, deep insecurities, or emotional baggage that they've never dealt with. Instead of healing, they distract. Instead of facing their truth, they run. And in the process, they hurt the people who try to love them the most. Not because those people did anything wrong, but because the cheater is at war within. Their betrayal isn't just about desire or opportunity. It's a reflection of inner turmoil that's been left unchecked. This kind of person doesn't cheat because they're bad. They cheat because they're broken and haven't taken responsibility for their healing. They feel empty and try to fill that void with temporary affection. They feel unworthy and try to prove their worth by seeking validation from others. They feel powerless and try to gain control through secret relationships, lies, or manipulation. What they don't realize is that no amount of outside pleasure can fix what's damaged inside. When someone is disconnected from themselves, they often form shallow connections with others. They're unable to truly love because they haven't learned how to love themselves. And when you try to love them, you're met with confusion. One moment they're close, the next they're distant. One day they say they want forever, the next they act like you don't matter. That inconsistency is not about you. It's about the storm inside them they refuse to calm. Escaping from self is one of the most common but hidden reasons people betray their partners. It's not about who you are, it's about what they can't face in themselves. And instead of doing the inner work, like going to therapy, learning emotional regulation, building self-awareness, they take the easy route, distraction. They run to another person, another conversation, another momentary thrill. Not because it satisfies them, but because it silences the inner noise for a while. But nothing external can fix an internal issue. So even after they cheat, they're not fulfilled. Even after they lie, they're still empty. The guilt, the shame, the chaos they create, it all catches up. And yet, unless they choose to face themselves, they repeat the same cycle again and again, hurting one person after another, always running from the same thing, their own reflection. You've been hurt by someone like this, it's important to understand that their betrayal wasn't proof that you weren't enough. It was evidence that they were broken and afraid to heal. You didn't fail them. You were just never going to be able to fix what they refused to confront. No amount of love, sacrifice, or patience can heal someone who isn't ready to face themselves. That's not your burden to carry. You can't save someone who keeps choosing escape over growth. You can't build with someone who keeps destroying what's good because they're afraid to feel too much. And you definitely can't have peace with someone who is at war within. But you can choose peace for yourself. You can recognize the difference between someone who's healing and someone who's hiding. You can decide not to take their actions personally, because what they did says more about their wounds than your worth. And most importantly, you can walk away knowing that their failure to love you properly wasn't your failure. It was a reflection of their inner conflict. The right person won't need to escape from themselves to love you. They'll be emotionally present, self-awares, and open. They won't use love as a distraction. They'll see it as a responsibility and a gift, because real love doesn't run from pain. It faces it, heals through it, and grows stronger because of it. Some people cheat or hurt others because they never learned how to love in a healthy way. They may have grown up witnessing toxic relationships, manipulation, or conditional love. Their understanding of love is distorted, shaped more by dysfunction than by truth. So when they enter a relationship, they bring those same patterns with them. It's not that they don't want love. It's that they don't know how to give or receive it without sabotaging it. They confuse control with connection, attention with affection, and chaos with passion. This is one of the most heartbreaking reasons people betray the ones who care for them. They're not operating from a place of malice. They're operating from broken programming. Somewhere along the way, they learned that love comes with pain, that closeness invites disappointment, that vulnerability equals weakness. So when someone starts to love them deeply, it triggers fear. And instead of leaning in, they push away. Instead of growing through the discomfort of emotional intimacy, they sabotage it through infidelity, lies, or emotional detachment. They were never taught how to communicate openly, how to regulate their emotions, or how to work through conflict without lashing out or withdrawing. Love to them feels unsafe. even when it's pure, especially when it's pure, because purity feels unfamiliar, respect feels foreign. And the moment things get stable or healthy, they subconsciously recreate the chaos they're used to. They hurt the one person who is showing them something real because they've never seen or believed in that kind of love before. What often happens is they fall in love with the idea of love, not the responsibility of it. They crave connection but fear commitment. They want to be seen but are terrified of being truly known. So they keep people at a distance, they create emotional confusion to stay in control, they test loyalty by being disloyal, and when the relationship finally crumbles, they tell themselves, "See, I knew it wouldn't last," not realizing they were the one who broke it before it had a chance to bloom. If you were hurt by someone like this, it's natural to wonder what you could have done differently. But the truth is, you can't teach someone how to love if they're not willing to unlearn their past. You can't heal someone who is still defending the very pain that's destroying them. You can't build something beautiful with someone who is still loyal to dysfunction. What you can do is protect your peace. Understand that their failure to love you wasn't about your value. It was about their inability to break generational patterns. You were not too much. You were not too intense. You were simply too real for someone who only knew how to navigate love through fear, confusion, and survival. The love you offered may have been the healthiest thing they ever encountered, and that scared them. They weren't ready for love that didn't come with strings, mind games, or emotional instability. You represented growth, and growth requires accountability. That's something many people run from, especially when they've never had to face themselves before. Real love is not just about feelings, it's about responsibility, maturity, and healing. It's about doing the internal work to show up fully for someone else. And until a person is ready to heal what shaped their understanding of love, they will continue to hurt others who offer it. So don't carry their pain as your burden. You didn't fail them, they failed to rise. Keep your heart soft, but your boundaries strong, because the right person will not be afraid of your love. They'll be grateful for it. And they'll know how to handle it with care because they've done the work to be ready for it.